Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. In today's video, we're going to be covering the other measure definition that was added to the Delta version of MSHGQM. In the previous video, I covered the AND slicer or patient cohort, which was the other measure that was added to the Delta version of MSHGQM. As you know, the Delta version really wasn't focused on adding new measure definitions as much as new functionality. But let's get right into it. Multi-column aggregations, you can find them. If you scroll all the way down under totals, you'll see the MC aggregations. You can click on that and we get our configuration panel. Now, a couple things to note here. Your version of the Delta version of MSHGQM probably has this, say, column or measure, and it probably has a table and column definition applied to this column. All of these are configured basically the same way. As you can, mine's going to be a little different because I'm using the debug version where I went in and corrected that. You don't want to be using measures with MC aggregations. You only want to be using columns. And the reason that you had configuration settings here for these column definitions was because I actually used MSHGQM to create MC aggregations and then just copied and pasted it from the custom JSON file that I have into the supported measures JSON. So I got to watch that in the future. The second thing I want to say about MC aggregations is if you find yourself having to use MC aggregations, then you may want to seriously consider refactoring your data model. And I'll get into the reasons for that in a minute here. But if you use MC aggregations, as you can see here, I can just go ahead and find the table, column 1, column 2. And the idea here is that I have values in each of these columns, and I want to do an aggregation across all of them, like summing all of these columns together, or finding the average of all these columns, etc. I can click on DAX, and you can see the DAX created. We have a variable column 1, and we're using select columns to grab that column from that table. And we're doing that repeatedly for each of the columns. And then we just create a table variable where we could do a union of all of those, and then we can do a SUMX across it. Of course, if I want a different aggregation, I regen the DAX, and I get average X, or even product X. So the concept behind MC aggregations, not super complex. The reason I say that you may want to consider refactoring your data model is that this is quite a bit of DAX code, really, what's going on here, compared to if you would go into Power Query Editor and you would take those 4 columns and unpivot them, then you would end up with an attribute column and a value column, and you could do a simple sum or a simple average just across that one single column. And that's generally a better model in all respects compared to trying to do something like MC aggregations. Now, there may be times that you want, that you really do need MC aggregations, and that's why it exists. There are lots of different variables and ways of doing things out there, and I can't possibly say that unpivoting your columns is the right solution in all circumstances, but it generally is. Now, however, MC aggregations does support that you could actually take columns from different tables, and now I'm aggregating a column, 3 columns in table 1 and 1 column in table 2. So it doesn't matter the tables that you're aggregating the columns from. Now, of course, you can say, well, this is great, and I can edit the DAX, but I need a 5th column or a 6th column, and that's fine. It's always easy enough to do, because what we can do is we can go and say that put ourselves into the raw version of MSHGQM, and you can see the raw code behind here in terms of how I'm using select columns and table name and all of that. And I can go ahead and say, well, I'm going to put this in my custom group. So I can create a custom version of MSHGQM and create, and I'll actually call this custom MC aggregations. And I can create my custom measure. My measure definition has been created. I can scroll back up here to my custom MC aggregations. Now I can edit this. So here's the columns that and I need a fifth column, let's say. So click on this, click on done. Go ahead and update this definition very quickly. Again, because I had MC aggregations configured. Now to save this, my changes that I've made over here, I just click create custom again. It updates the measure definition. So now when I click back here, I've got all columns, and now I've got 5 columns that I can use. Now, obviously, I need to actually add my 5th column. So I can do a copy paste, column 5, and it's going to be for name, because the first column name does not have a number in it. And now I need to add this to my union, column 5. And again, we will update our measure definition. Measure definition has been updated. And now if we view it again, we've got our column 5 added, and now we can aggregate across 5 columns. So that's it. That's all there is to MC aggregations, and I will see you guys next time.